All right, y'all, I'm doing the book dance. It's not a review this time, it's just reading an excerpt. And this partly relates to the interview you're about to hear with Toni Shiloh, because at one point she does reference another Jane Austen book. But it also is because it's almost Valentine's Day. So this is an excerpt from Persuasion by Jane Austen, which is, I guess, the OG second chance romance. Frederick and Anne are engaged, and then Anne is persuaded, hence the title, to break it off. And she regrets it for the next 8.5 years. And they are both just heartbroken and miserable during that time. And then they are thrown together again in the same circle of friends. And there's a lot of tension. And does she still feel the same way? Does he still feel the same way? And, we know that she does, but we don't know that he does until he overhears her having a conversation. And he writes her this letter while she's having this conversation. So this is one of the most famous love letters in all of literature. And to any man who thinks it's okay to define the relationship via a text message, let me just read this to you. I can no longer listen in silence. I must speak to you by such means as are within my reach. You pierce my soul. I am half agony, half hope. Tell me not that I am too late, that such precious feelings are gone forever. I offer myself to you again with a heart even more your own than when you almost broke it 8.5 years ago. Dare not say that man forgets sooner than woman, that his love has an earlier death. I have loved none but you. Unjust I may have been, weak and resentful I have been, but never inconstant. You alone have brought me to Bath. For you alone I think and plan. Have you not seen this? Can you fail to have understood my wishes? I had not waited even these 10 days, could I have read your feelings, as I think you must have penetrated mine. I can hardly write. I am every instant hearing something which overpowers me. You sink your voice, but I can distinguish the tones of that voice when they would be lost on others. Too good, too excellent creature, you do us justice indeed. You do believe that there is true attachment and constancy among men. Believe it to be most fervent, most undeviating in, and he puts his initials. I must go, uncertain of my fate, but I shall return hither or follow your party as soon as possible. A word, a look will be enough to decide whether I enter your father's house this evening or never. Now that's a letter, y'all. And that's all I have. Now, enjoy my interview with Toni Shiloh. Hey everybody, and welcome to Oh My Word with Katie, the show where we hear from Christian writers and give you amazing book recommendations and marvel at all the ways God shows up in words and stories. I'm your host, Katie Ginn, and today I get to interview Toni Shiloh. Toni is the author of several soulfully romantic Christian novels, including her latest, Hearts on the Fly. And I can't do this cover justice, but whoever did this illustration did an amazing job, and there's some details in the background that you'll want to pay attention to. But Toni, thanks so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to talking about Hearts on a Fly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was reading your bio on your website, and there were a couple of things that stood out. One, just right out the gate, you're a fan of K-dramas. And I have never watched one. So what would be your number one recommendation for a beginner? Like, which K-drama do I start with?
Yeah. My number one recommendation to anyone who asks is Crash Landing on You.
Okay.
You can find it on Netflix, and it's sort of that forbidden romance, star-crossed lovers.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Okay. So what is it about the K-dramas? Because, we have soap operas here, and then there's the telenovelas, but what is it about the K-dramas specifically?
I love the storytelling. The way they draw out the story, have that slow burn, and introduce you to the characters and slowly give you like the backstory of why they are the way they are. Like, it hooks you, and you're like, I have to see this to the end to find out, like, will they or won't they? Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, very cool. I like that. I like a slow burn. Um, so the other thing your bio said was you're an Air Force veteran, and that's how you met your husband. So y'all have lived a lot of different places. You've had a lot of different life experiences. You have 2 sons now. But what made you want to become a writer? How and when did that start?
Yeah, so that actually started after I finished my service. I went ahead and went back to college to get a English degree, and while I was taking some classes, I did creative writing. And it was sort of like that old dream I had as a kid was reignited. And this time I was like, so what if I follow through?
Mhm.
And yeah, that's just how it happened. I started writing nonstop and realized just how much I love story.
Mhm. So you went to college, got your degree. How long after that before you, I guess, got your first book published?
I would say I think it was about 2 or 3 years after.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
my kids were still young, and I was writing during nap times.
Yeah, that's what I think. I talked to another author who was doing writing during nap times, and then by the time her books finally got published, she was no longer on diaper duty because they were out of diapers. But sounds like you got a bit of a quicker start, which is fun. Um,
Yeah, it definitely was helpful. My oldest, he was in kindergarten, and so my youngest was the one who gave me trouble. He didn't want to do any naps. So we worked out a quiet time. He would go be quiet in his room, and I would write until his patience lasted.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Very fun. So I know it's clear from this book, even if I hadn't read your bio, that you want to honor Jesus in everything you write. And your characters, which we'll talk about in a minute, definitely go through some spiritual changes and God shows up for them in the story. But as you've written these stories, I'm curious how God has shown up for you. Like, how has He drawn you closer to Himself through all that?
That's really a great question. I think every time I write a story, I'm surprised the different ways he shows up. Because, for some of the stories, it's just a matter of being able to write quickly if I'm on a really bad deadline. That's a huge blessing. But sometimes I feel like I'm learning the lesson the characters are learning at the same time. Like you're like, oh, I'm gonna make my character struggle with patience, and then by the end you're like, oh wait, I was struggling with patience, and
Mhm.
I needed that lesson. So it's one of those things where I feel like I learned just like the characters do, and I feel like I'm closer to God by the end of the story.
Mhm. All right, so I'm going to show the cover again. Let's talk about Hearts on the Fly. Now, I knew the phrase on the fly, like, oh, I did it on the fly. I went shopping on the fly, just spontaneously. But have we been stealing this term from hockey this whole time?
I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but for hockey, the term on the fly is usually when the players switch on the fly. They don't wait for, a break or a face off. That you'll see it sometimes if you ever watch a hockey game where the hockey players just kind of hop over the bench and there's game is still in motion. That's the on the fly.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know enough about sports to be certain of this. Is that something that's sort of unique to hockey, or do other sports have that?
No, no, that's definitely unique to hockey because like football and basketball, like you have to have a break, like an
Mm-hmm.
actual timeout where they're switching players.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, as people might have guessed, your male protagonist is a pro hockey player. Do your boys play hockey? What made you choose that sport?
No, my kids do not play sports, but I'm the sports fan in the house.
Okay.
Well, my husband as well, and I've just fallen in love with hockey the past few years. I think it started probably with a good book, and then I started watching it, and then I fell in love with the sport, and then my agent was like, "Ooh, have you thought about writing a hockey book?" And I was like, "I would love to write a hockey book."
That's
Let's
so Yeah, and when I was like looking for people to interview and saw this title in the book and that it's about hockey, it made me think of, and I'm gonna have to text her, a girl who interned for me, and she has a blog, she reads a lot, and she's always reading these hockey romances, and I'm like, girl, where did these come from? I don't understand. So this is a thing, like it's been a thing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a thing. And I I don't I can't honestly pick out what it is about the stories that made me think, give me all the hockey. Because I mean, is it the romance? Is it the camaraderie between the players? Like, is it that found family? Like, I don't think it's just a one thing, but it's all the things you get with a hockey book that make you just want
Mhm.
to devour them all.
Yeah. Well, one thing I noticed, another unique thing about hockey is Val goes into the arena wearing a sweater or a hoodie or something. She remarks on, they say it's an average temperature of 60 degrees in here, but when you're close to the ice, it can feel much, much colder. So, it may be indoors, but people are still sort of in the elements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so true. It was funny because my husband and I were just at a basketball game, and I was like I want to know under the layers of the floor, like where's the ice? Because they're not gonna like melt it and freeze it and melt it and freeze it. Like that would take too much time. But when you go to the basketball game, you don't feel the cold like you would when you're there for the hockey game.
Uh-huh. And
Because
is this is where you live? They use the same arena for both?
yep,
Oh, that's crazy.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, your next character should be the person who's in charge of that switcheroo and like what goes on behind the scenes. That's crazy.
I would so love to know. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, so this particular book we have Jabari and Val, and it switches POVs between the two of them. And again, reading in your bio, it said you're a boy mom, you have two sons, and immediately I was like, that makes sense. And it would have made sense if you were a girl mom too, because Val has two sisters, so there's that whole dynamic. But there's just something about the way you write Jabari that you have a special place for him in your heart. So does being a boy mom help with that, like switching between the two characters, and do you do that a lot?
I actually really love this question. It makes me think because my first instinct would be like, no, like I don't think it makes a difference. But then I'm like, as long as I've been writing, I've been a boy mom. Like
Mhm.
I've had that, um, like just heart for little boys that are to grow up to be men. And of course, I'm married to a man. And then, um, like I'm sure you're gonna get to it, but this story touches a special place in my heart because of family member. So I think like all of it goes into it. It's so easy to just ask my husband or my kids, "Hey, would a guy say this?" And they give me immediate feedback. So it probably influences it more than I've ever thought about it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So you started to touch on this. Jabari has a very difficult trial in his life. He gets a bad concussion on the ice and realizes he has macular degeneration. He's starting to lose his eyesight. And your grandfather actually dealt with that. Is he still living?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And did he fully like lose his sight?
So he hasn't fully lost it, but he is considered legally blind.
Hmm.
Um, And he's always been that way ever since I've been alive. And I never thought anything of it, um, other than when I decided, you know what, I want to have a character who's going to deal with this eyesight. And I went and I basically called him and I'm like, hey, can I interview you and pick your brain?
Hmm.
And when I started asking questions, I realized just how much it impacted him. And I think how much sight I take for granted. And then how much I didn't realize he overcame just because in my head he's always been this guy who did all these things and I never thought to myself like wow like he's an amazing man to have lived life with this disease.
Yeah. When did he start losing his eyesight?
He started losing his eyesight in his 30s.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where a lot of doctors will be like, no, that's not possible, because they believe that it happens to someone who's older in their age. Or you have like a juvenile one where they're super young, but like
Hmm.
someone in their 30s doesn't fit the mold.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so when they realize no, he actually does have it, like then it's like all the questions, like when were you first diagnosed? Like, so it's just one of those things where I was like, yeah, I can definitely write a hockey player in his 30s who loses
Mhm.
because I know someone who did that.
Yeah. Is he married? Does your grandmother help him with things or?
No, he's currently not married, so he lives on his own in a retirement community. So he's been dealing with it on his own for decades.
Wow, that's so cool. All right, so then Val, our female protagonist, she, over the course of the book, you start to realize as the middle sister, middle of three, she really struggles with being a people pleaser and just keeping the peace, keep everybody happy, keep this one away from that one if they're mad at each other. And, you know, and she kind of gets overlooked in that whole process. Why was it important for you to have her dealing with that particular struggle for this story?
That's a great question. I think again, it was probably a little bit of a lesson I needed to learn, right? I always say I'm a recovering people pleaser, but I've just seen so many people lately who are trying to play peacemaker, but they're the one who's not at peace. And so I just wanted to, I guess, talk to all the people who feel unseen, feel like they're overlooked, and feel like, they're doing their best trying to keep everyone happy and keeping the status quo. But, like this is what you really should be doing. This is how you can seek true happiness and not play a fake peacemaker, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and by the end of the book, she's setting some hard boundaries. Like I was like, "Oh, you're really going there." I mean, cuz somebody comes in and apologizes and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Great." Cuz I can be a little bit of that peacemaker too. So I'm like, "Okay, it's good now." And she's like, "Well, I'm not, we're not going to go here unless you're willing to admit this." And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
pushing back a little bit." And so I was proud of Val by the end. That was good.
So was I. I don't know. I just had a. I think both of these characters just like took a piece of my heart with them, and I was like, I just wanted to cheer for both of them in their stories and their struggles. And yeah, I really hope that like everyone loves them as much as I love them.
Mhm. And there is a little bit of a sneak peek at the end of a continuation of one of the supporting characters. So you're definitely kind of going to stay in this world for a little bit, right?
I am. I'm finishing that right right now. So
Yeah. Okay. Is it still going to be hockey or maybe a different sport?
no, it's going to be basketball.
Okay. Okay. Very, very cool. Well, what about you yourself as a reader? Were you reading a lot growing up? And do you remember sort of the first story that maybe captured you as a young person?
Yeah, I definitely was a bookworm growing up. There's the joke in my family that you could have always seen me with a book, um, which is definitely true. I think my mom has a bunch of pictures of me literally just reading or hiding in a closet with a book, like whatever. And I think probably the first book that like stands out in my mind is like the Nancy Drew series. Um, I was hooked on that, the Babysitters Club, like the more the merrier. And series also like because you get to live in that world over and over and over.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, have your other books been in series? Have you done like continuations before?
Definitely. I love a good series. And I joke with my critique partners that I don't know how to write a book without like the secondary characters being like, pick me and write a story about me.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, but that's good though, because that shows that the whole cast is strong, so to speak. Like those are strong characters. What about a favorite Bible story that's impacted you?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know how you can choose just one, um, but I think Ruth.
Mm.
Um, I love the fact that even though she herself lost a husband, that her concern was for her mother-in-law And she was like, where you go, I'll go. Like the strength that shows in the midst of her own hardship. I don't know. That story just touches me deeply, and I love it every time I read it.
Favorite book outside of Christian romance?
Good question. I usually say Pride and Prejudice
Mm.
because I've read it more than once, watched the movie more than once.
Now, which movie?
So both. I have the BBC version on DVD. And now that everything's on streaming, I've seen it on streaming as well. And I've watched the 2005 version so much my kids recognize it. Just from like a snippet, they're like, Pride and Prejudice again.
Yeah, it's a perfect film, though. I mean, you're just exposing them to culture. So,
Right? Thank you.
Okay, Pride and Prejudice. That's a great recommendation. What are you reading now? Are you reading anything currently?
Yes. So I'm currently reading a book called We Blend. And it's, I would say, a cross between young adult, new adult, as far as age range. And it's about two people who discovered that they blend perfectly when they sing. Um, yeah. But both of them have secrets. And I'm literally just like reading this going, okay, at any moment this is going to come out and it's going to be bad, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because there's definitely some secrets in your book. And man, that first family lunch, I was just sitting there with eyes wide. Like, so there's definitely some spicy family drama going on.
Yeah, I might have been in my house cackling at that lunch, going, this is so great.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice to read about the drama without being part of the drama.
Yes, definitely. I would never want to be in that situation. But like on the outside looking in, I'm like, yes, where's the popcorn?
Right, right. All right. And then I'm trying to think if there were any other book related questions I wanted to ask you. Do you have a favorite book by another author in the Christian fiction realm that you would want to recommend?
Oh, definitely. I usually recommend Becky Wade's My Stubborn Heart,
Okay.
which, funny enough, is a hockey romance, probably before hockey romances became popular.
Okay.
Um, and there's just like the way she writes emotion in that story, like it's like you feel every bit of both the guy and the girl's emotions, and it just like tugs at all the heartstrings.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right. Well, finally, is there a Bible verse or passage that sticks out to you as related to Hearts on the Fly, which again, February 3rd, is that correct?
That's correct.
This is out. But is there a scripture that you'd like to share that relates to this story to wrap us up?
Yeah, my first thought, I was like, that feels like a spoiler verse.
Ooh.
Um, but so I think the secondary verse I would think of is probably Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. The lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge the Lord, and He'll make your path straight. Because I think there are so many times in the book where they're trying to navigate their own way, and do the things that they think are right instead of seeking the Lord and finding actually like what am I supposed to do in this situation.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so good and so true and so convicting.
For me
Yeah.
too.
Well, Toni, thanks so much again for being on the show today. This has been so much fun. And y'all be sure to pick up your copy of Hearts on the Fly, February 3rd, 2026. And I will talk to y'all soon. Hey, y'all, one quick thing before I let you go. Just a couple of reminders. If you enjoy this podcast, please follow us wherever you're watching or listening, Spotify, YouTube, Apple. And on Apple Podcasts, please go in and give us both a star rating and a written review. The more of those we get, the more people we can reach, the more likely I am to get sponsors for this show, and the more sustainable it is in the long run. So I would really, really appreciate that. And finally, if you enjoy hearing how God shows up in words and stories on this show, You will probably enjoy reading about God showing up in words and stories in Mississippi Christian Living magazine, which is my day job. So if you're interested in Mississippi Christian Living, you can find us at mschristianliving.com, or you can follow us on Facebook at MS Christian Living, or on Instagram at MS Christian Mag. And you can even subscribe and have the magazine delivered right to your door, 12 issues for $29 a year. So again, that's mschristianliving.com. I'll talk to y'all soon.